G'day, Steve Morgan from ABT and Fishing Monthly magazines. It's Friday, it means it's another Tackle Fridays, and it's been a big week. We've just come off the road trip for the last two qualifying events of the Daiwa Bream series. One was the Atomic round down on the Richmond River at Ballina, and the other was on the Tweed River, and that was the Crush Shitty round. Both great events. The sponsors were really generous. At the Atomic event, every angler, like over 100 in the field, got an Atomic Deep Hards 38 crankbait and one of their Metals Vibes, two lures that worked really well over that weekend. And at the Crush Shitty round, every angler got 2 packs of the Crush Shitty plastics. Now, I'm sure both of those companies have got some cool gear coming out this year at the After Trade Show as well, where you can go and visit them on the public day on the Saturday. So all the information of that will come up in a future Tackle Fridays. And let me say that there will be probably some decent Tackle Friday stuff coming from the after show. The two Bream tournaments were great. I was happy. I got my limit on all 4 of the days. My result at Ballina wasn't good. They were just low 2 kilo bags each day. Ended up in 20th place there. And a lot happier at the Tweed. I'm a lot more comfortable on the Tweed. I think I fish it a lot more. Last time I visited the Tweed, I went from 13th to 1st on the second day with a big day 2 bag, but it was the other way around this year. I was sitting 3rd after day 1 with a bag just over 3 kilos, but then only managed 2.5 on day 2, dropped me down to 5th place, which I'm super happy with. Another badge for the year. Ended up 4th in AOY. This year was a hyper-competitive AOY race. Mark Healy belted it in the end. 4 wins and a 4th place gave him 497 points, which is a record for Bream. It's not an ABT record. We've had an angler win all 5 events out of 5. Charles West won a Bass Electric Angler of the Year with 5 wins once. And guys like Matty Langford have won 3 events in a season, but Mark Healy is definitely up in the stratosphere at the moment, making all the right decisions. You can listen to the interview I did with him on the ABT social media pages. Had a great year. I've got a few projects which have been happening. First of all, in between the tournament stuff, my day job is Fishing Monthly magazines. The latest one of those turned up in the mail this morning. Pretty cool underwater shot of a salmon there. Reason why you want Fishing Monthly and not just getting all your information on social media is we are very predictive. We're going to tell you what's biting and where it's going to be biting. Not on social media when you hear what has been biting and what they have caught. No one on social media is going to tell you, oh, come here at this time of year because you and me can stand next to each other and catch these awesome fish. No, they only tell you that afterwards. So if you want predictive stuff from sort of all over the country, grab a Fishing Monthly magazine. Helps me out, helps my staff out. We've still got 6 staff on magazines. Pretty sure we're the biggest in the country now by a fair way. Buy one at your local newsagent. Support your local newsagent or get a free gift when you subscribe. Best place to subscribe is on iSubscribe. It's a big subscription portal that organises it all for you and for us. So magazine will be out in newsagents, I assume, next week since that came in the mail today. Project that's been coming together, number 2, is this. I showed you many Tackle Fridays ago that was the second-hand Roman-made mother that I bought, and I always wanted to put together a rod and reel to put it together. So I've got this rod. This is an absolute beast, the rod. It's an Omen. It's an 8-foot heavy, lure weight 4 to 8 ounces, and 20 to 40 pound mono it's designed for, but I've got 80 pound platypus braid and 80 pound mono leader on this thing. It's an Omen black rod, and I've paired it with the Concept A3 reel. Now that's this reel here. It's a 6.3 to 1. It's the slower of the reels that are available. Right-hand drive. These big glide baits are all about giving the lure the action from the reel. They're hard to sling. This is a super heavy bait, and maybe I might catch a barra on it later in the year, but I've got a good population of bull sharks in the river, and my moral dilemma at the moment is, do I throw a $500 bait at a bull shark? I can't catch them on anything else. There are heaps of them in there. I can live scope them up. I'll put a little bit of footage in the cutaway here of what they look like on the live scope. But do I throw a $500 bait at a shark, whereas I catch something on it, it'll probably half wreck the bait? This is a wooden bait. I'm sure if they eat it with those shark teeth, they will make a mess of it. So I don't know, but I tell you what, it's a 8-foot long rod. It's super heavy. You can pull the plug out of the ocean with this thing. It is now all set up and ready to go. So it's going to be sitting in my tackle room looking at me, saying, please use me, don't use me on a bull shark. Next, let's go through the two outfits that I use the most in the last two Bream events. It's a Daiwa Bream series, no secret. I got a full quiver of the Daiwa in-feet rods. Well, when I say a full quiver, I've got all the models that suit my sorts of fishing. So for me, the Ballina was about two baits. It was about the cranker crabs and it was about the Aqua. I did catch some on the atomic cranks as well in both events. They came on the cranks. But predominantly Aqua and crabs were the way to go. Now, even though a lot of guys at the top end of the field lost a lot of crabs, someone asked me on the social media feeds, how many did you lose at the Tweed, where some guys were losing 20, 30 crabs. I lost one the whole time. I always try to stay quite above my crabs, not do too much dragging along. I find the further you throw them and the slower you drag them in current, that line just drags them into the bottom. If I can sort of stay above them and keep that line up, the line stays higher. It's not, the crab's not hitting the ground. The line's not dragging down with the current. It's not pulling it into the bottom. I'm just sort of swimming it over the bottom. In fact, I caught a few of my good fish on the second day at the Tweed swimming a crab on a bridge pylon. We're in about 20 feet of water. I could see the fish up suspending under the pylon. So you throw up and let it sink maybe 4 or 5 feet and just sort of wind it with the current, and that crankbaiting a crab. It's worked for me in various locations before, and it worked to get on the Tweed. Now, the crab rod, and a lot of people ask this question, what are the rods you use? So this one here, they've both got the Daiwa TD Black MQs in the 2500 size. I've got a whole heap of those now. The TD Black's the only one I use at all the different tournament rods in those two different sizes. And if I was to do an initial review on them, the best thing I can say about them is I never even thought about using the reel. The reel's a tool. I'm not sitting there conscious the whole time of, oh, that's a new reel, that feels different. They just do their job. The drag's nice and smooth. You can see on my live streams that they're nice and smooth. They're nice and light in the hand. They balance well with those in-feet rods. This one I've loaded. This had 4 pound of the Daiwa Finesse on it. The Finesse fluorocarbon straight through to the crab, and I caught a lot of fish on that fella there. The heavy olive cranker crab was the one that me and a lot of the field, I assume, used. But the rod itself is the Daiwa in-feet. It's a Z series, which is the middle series, and it's a 7'8" ST with a solid tip. Now this is like a evolution of the original crab rod that Daiwa brought out, and it's a few iterations past the original international rods we found. They always had too long a handle. This has got a nice short handle, so you find that that length is fine for a lure that you don't need to put action in. So anything which, say, it could be a crankbait, crab, mussel, anything where you're just sort of dragging that lure along straight through, and the 7'8" rod is pretty cool. So 2500 TD Black MQ, the in-feet 7'8" rod, solid tip, straight through 4 pound fluorocarbon, got the job done. The other rod, and we did a lot of aqua fishing, both at Ballina and at Tweed, but mainly at Tweed. When the tide comes in, those fish get right up into the mangrove edges. And unlike other places where I'm looking for rock all the time, I'm actually looking for little bits of mangrove that stick out and break the current. You'll get nothing along a bank, and then you'll get this little sort of a back eddy or a snag break, and there'll be 5 or 6 fish in there, like a little wolf pack of fish, and splash an aqua down near them, and they'll race out and eat it. So the aqua rod, it's whereas this the crab rod is probably a softer, slower rod. This is a very fast taper rod. This is the in-feet EX. It's the top of the line series. It's a 7'4" in the solid tip as well. So it's got that real delicate solid tip that you can. It gives it that little flick that you need to get the aqua in there, and the aquas skip over really nicely. But then once you've got to set the hook, it's all about belting that thing as hard as you can. Again, cutaway here, you can see how hard I smash that hook in them. It's a #1 Van Fuke Magic Beak worm hook. It's on that 50mm salt and pepper aqua, and that's what I love using. The white colour, because I can see it. I can see it drifting down a bank. If it disappears for any reason, might be down a fish's throat, strike. See a twitch in the line, strike. Think if Brim's got it, strike. Strikes are free. So this thing's got... I've got the braided line, which is on this one here. It's a Suffix 131, a 13 carrier braid in 4 pound. So it sounds really light, but I did not break the braided line once on the strike. It probably breaks at 8 or 10 pound, the same as most braids. They're highly underrated on the packets, unless they're a Japanese braid, in which case they're pretty accurate. On the end of that, I had either 5 or 7 pound Daiwa X-Link leader straight to the hook, and had sort of a rod and a half of of leader length on there. So, so a very effective tool. You do miss a few small fish with that sort of semi-enclosed hook when you rig it weedless, but the big fish, they get on. You hit them hard, that hook stays home. So I don't mind losing a few of the ones that don't count if it means that the ones that do count stay pegged and they don't get me back into the snag. So they were the two Daiwa outfits that got it done for me this week. The TD Blacks, love them, because I didn't really think about the fact I was using the TD Blacks until the tournaments were all finished. It means a tool that got the job done. That's it for Tackle Fridays this week. Be back next week with a few more exciting things.